Jay Hill departing BYU is going to have a ripple effect, and a lot of that extends in many people's minds to how many players does he pluck away from BYU to go with him to Michigan. I have stated this position before on this podcast, but I'll reiterate it here, that I believe that the BYU football program is one of the more transfer portal proof programs that exists in all of college football. And that may sound like poppycock to some of you, and I understand that, but let me try and rationalize and explain further what I mean. What BYU is about, and speaking of a church school that's affiliated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Kalani Sitake has made it very, very painfully clear that BYU and their football program are going to represent Brigham Young University, obviously, on the football field, but also be a light off of the field and be an extension of, the missionary arm of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They stand for more when they play for BYU football, speaking of these players, more than just the football player that they are. They stand for a program that obviously espouses the ideals, the tenets, the beliefs, the standards, everything that comes with the LDS church. And with that, when you buy into that, it seems like you understand that it means just that much more than just a paycheck or going to a program. Yes, there are programs out there that I believe are pretty portal proof because honestly, why would you want to leave those programs? I get all that. I'm thinking of the Michigans, the Ohio States, the Texases, the Alabamas of the world. The guys that leave those programs are guys who just can't find a way up the depth chart to get on the field. BYU has not lost a lot of top shelf players in recent years. I'm talking like the top of the top. Like we're talking bona fide A1 type starters in recent seasons with the portal. Because I think BYU, when they recruit guys, they have to find a pretty unique fit of an individual to come to BYU. I'm not saying that guys don't leave because look at last year. Keelan Marion, Harrison Taggart went on to be starters at the Power 4 level in the case of Keelan Marion at Miami and Taggart at Cal. But BYU, they don't lose as many of those guys as any other programs the caliber of Brigham Young University because, as I believe it to be, BYU, it means just that much more. And that may sound like a homerific take, but I think the proof is in the pudding out there. I would expect a guy, and it's been pretty widely rumored, that Faletau Satuala, who's been very open about why Jay Hill has been critical to getting him to BYU and obviously developing him into the breakout star he was this season. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Faletau Satuala follows a guy like Jay Hill to Michigan. But beyond that, I don't think of really any other player. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but I'm not really thinking of any other player on BYU's defense that, once again, Jay Hill coordinated to a top 25 caliber level annually during his time at BYU. I just don't see any other than that are like, that's a Jay Hill guy. Maybe there are. Maybe there are more guys out there than I realize. And if you know of those guys, please feel free to reach out to me and let me know who they are so I can monitor them as the portal window gets ready to open here on January 2nd. But a lot of these guys are bought into what Kalani Sitake is all about, and more importantly, what BYU is all about. And that's why I believe, once again, that BYU is one of the more portal-proof schools there is, I should say, in the entire country. Yes, we have seen the McKenzie brothers, who are BYU legacy guys, both announced they intend to enter the transfer portal. Speaking of wide receiver and Dominique, and obviously cornerback / special teams ace Marcus, they have both announced over this past month they intend to enter the transfer portal. Jake Griffin announced a reserve offensive lineman that he plans on leaving. There's at least one more I'm thinking of off the top of my head, but expect a handful more to go. But they're going to be more reserve type players who are probably looking for more playing time, or if they are a starting caliber player, hey, maybe they're looking for a paycheck, and maybe the revenue share and the overall agreement they have with them in BYU is not to their liking, and maybe that's pushing them out the door. But as Kalani Sitake has said multiple times, if you're coming here just for a paycheck, speaking of BYU, I don't really want you here. Kalani wants it to mean more than just collecting money as a mercenary, for lack of a better term, to play football and represent Brigham Young University. Kalani knows what BYU stands for. He absolutely radiates that in everything that he does. How incredible was it for him in the postgame on the stage down there at the Pop-Tarts Bowl, essentially bear testimony of what he believes in when it comes to Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world, and why this program tries to espouse those ideals. And I know some of you are not religious, not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, don't have any interest in that, but but I think the vast majority of who I've talked to personally about the fact that you're still a BYU fan in spite of all that, you understand that it's kind of inextricably linked to the church and the mission and the aims of what the church is trying to do. That's why I believe, once again, that if you come to BYU, you understand, at least you should. If you don't, it's kind of on you at that point, it feels like, what BYU is all about. Yeah, the BYU experience is not for everybody, but by and large, I think if you go down the BYU rosters over the many, many years that BYU football has been playing, 101 seasons in total now, I think the vast majority of the guys who have suited up and played in the blue and white will say that BYU is part of who they are. And that's what you hope that a football program stands for. And especially in a crazy changing time that we're watching college football really become, it's nice that BYU does mean just that much more. It may not mean a lot more, but it means, like I said, just a little bit more. And a lot of guys, I think, buy into that ethos or that, I don't know, that way of life. And when they play for BYU, they understand that they're playing more than just the school that they're playing for. They're representing an entire faith that is literally worldwide. It has fans far and wide. This podcast can attest to that. Those of you who are both international, spread around the United States, you guys check in from all corners of the globe with this podcast. And it screams to exactly the reach that BYU football has. So while guys will be leaving, because I'm not going to say there aren't. No, there are guys who already plan to enter the portal. There will be more guys to come who plan to enter the portal from BYU. But understand that I think from my vantage point, the portal losses, I think, will be relatively small, and they won't be nearly as dire or as drastic as I believe they could be with another football program that loses a top shelf coordinator the caliber of Jay Hill. So this has been a very Jay Hill centric podcast, but for good reason, because he has been a really important cog into the success that BYU has had over the past 2 seasons in particular, but more importantly, setting them up for hopeful of future success. But understand that I think BYU, they're in a great spot right now, and trust that Kalani Sitake, the fact that he decided to pull back from the brink of leaving for Penn State and said, you know what? Home is where the heart is, and my heart's in Provo, Utah. Let's trust he's get the job done, and he'll keep leading BYU to even better days than we've enjoyed the past 24 months or so already. All right, that's going to do it for today's edition of the podcast. I truly do appreciate all of you guys for your support. As always, if you have not done so already, please consider joining the Locked On Cougars Everydayer Club. And if you want to be a part of it, it's really simple. Go to lockedoncougars.supercast.com to join today and get the inside scoop via all access tier with the one-on-one text access you can get with myself. You get the ad-free episodes and obviously the Discord server access, plus a whole lot more. So check it out. That's lockedoncougars.supercast.com. But once again, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. We say it all the time on this podcast, but we're serious about it. Now go make your second listen over on the Locked On College Football feed. Check out what Spencer McLaughlin is doing with Locked On College Football. He's doing a great job with that. And obviously, come back tomorrow and be an everydayer right here on the Locked On Cougars podcast.